Welcome to Game Changers with Molly Fletcher, where we take you behind the scenes with peak performers to learn what makes them tick and discover how you can apply their lessons to your life. I'm your host, Molly Fletcher. How can you become the person you want to be? Success only happens when who you are at your core aligns with your life's mission. Today's guest, Anthony Trucks, is a former NFL athlete, host of the Awe Shift podcast, and founder of Identity Shift Coaching. At age 3, Anthony entered foster care where he spent every day in survival mode before being adopted at 14. He went on to earn a football scholarship and made it to the NFL before his NFL dream came crashing down after an injury. Facing the odds once again, he had to pivot and pivot quickly. And that's how he discovered the power of the identity shift. Anthony's life mission is teaching people how to make shift happen in their lives. In our conversation today, we talk about how to reprogram your life from the inside out, turn roadblocks into opportunities, and elevate your life to reach your full potential. Here we go. This is my conversation with Anthony Trucks. What a treat to have you on. Thanks for joining me.
Well, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So I want to start with your personal journey because there's so much there to unpack. But it's also at the core of what we're going to be talking about today with identity. Tell me a little bit about, Anthony, your childhood and particularly your experience in foster care.
Yeah, so it's not the funnest time, but it's the most impactful part of my life in terms of what it gave me as a strength later. But I was given away into foster care at 3 years old by my biological mom, and me and my 3 siblings, besides myself, pretty much were, cast into this world that is not the best. It's statistically a very troublesome place to get out of. In fact, if you go to any prison in America, 75% of the inmates are former foster kids. 50% of our homeless population spent time in foster care, and less than 1% of us ever graduated from college. So the moment I was put into the system, numbers that are negative kind of got thrown into my life. So for me, the beginning of it all was, experiencing a lot of just heinous stuff and not knowing who I am, where I fit, where I belong, none of those things. It was a situation where I was like beaten and starved and tortured and forced to do weird things as a kid in terms of like chase chickens to earn meals or get put in shopping carts, pushed down hills, or forced to lick the bottom of people's shoes. So by 6 years old, I was a really shut down emotional kid. So I didn't have much of a sense of self, we'll call it. And then at 6 years old, got placed into a family, which is now still my family. The unique dynamic was really poor, all-white family. I'm an African-American man. So I had this very early onset of like, I don't fit. I don't know who I am. My identity of Anthony is just, it's a complete spin up. And so I went through a lot of years, 8 years before I was adopted, of just kind of trying to fit in and not feeling like I had a place, whether it was with my biological mom, my family, or my foster family or anything. And then 14, got adopted, and actually for the first time knew that the place I woke up was the place I'd go to bed. I'd never known that my entire life. So the beginning of my life is much like an experience we will all have at some point later on, typically, which is I don't feel like I belong. I don't know really who I am. I don't know what to do next. And it all just feels like a crazy tornado.
And the family that adopted you was the same family that you went to when you were 6. Is that correct?
Yeah, same family.
Okay. Yes, I've heard you talk about it. I mean, you've beaten the odds, Anthony. I mean, completely. Tell me how you've done that.
Without going into all of my story at the moment, the way that I did it was I went through these stages we all go through, but we typically go through them absent-mindedly. We're not really aware of what we're doing in the midst of them. And it took me until, I want to say early 30s to have a really interesting moment. This is after the NFL, after having 3 kids, being divorced from my high school sweetheart and all this craziness going on, that I looked in a mirror one day and my business had not been doing well. I was, for 6 years, I could never make enough money to really be able to say I was doing it and not wasn't a job. It was like just stressful. I wasn't really in great shape. I was not a great father. I didn't have great balance in relationships. I was just a mess. And it was a moment I looked in the mirror and I go, I just don't like this guy. That was it. It was like this New Year's Day, and it was just like there was this strange woman in the bed, and I just felt like, man, what a horrible human. I wouldn't want my boys or my daughter to emulate or look up to this man. My mom would not approve of this, and my God wouldn't let me into heaven. It was just really anchored negative feeling, and the catalyst of me making what I call a shift, first intentional true shift.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't a shift at my base. You ask, how did I, get through these things? A lot of us all seek out the information. What's the strategy? What should I do next? And it's great. We compile a bunch of information and a bunch of tools. But the problem is we end up looking at these things and go, ooh, but that's not who I am to do that. And it takes a lot of out of character work, we'll call it, to get there. So we see these things and we want to do them. We want what this will create for our lives, but it's very difficult to get into the action. Whereas by guilt, I found guilt a heavy anchor for a lot of us. Like I feel guilty for an action I didn't take or did take. Or the thing is, I've never done it before. And so we go back to that whole statement of the evil I know is better than the evil I don't. And so I stay in the same patterns, same habits, and I get the same outcome. And so for me, I looked at it and go, man, I don't like this guy. And so I started asking the question, well, who do I need to be? And it was a very different question than what should I do? Because when you ask who do you need to be, there's a difference in the background. The actions that take place, the habits, the acceptances, they're vastly different. Like we all have a friend. Like I'm sure you have a friend that if I asked you, hey, what would your best friend do in a situation? You could probably go, oh, I know what they do. Like inherently, because it's your best friend. Like you know them to your core. And so I go, okay, great. Well, there's a person out there that has the things we want in life. What would that person do in this situation? And typically it's going to be outside of your norm. It's not going to be the thing you do or think about. In fact, it may give you the heebie-jeebies to think about doing that thing, but that's what must be done. And so for me, I looked at it and go, okay, I want to be a better husband. I want to be a better father. I want my business to be successful enough to where I can actually put money away and I can have freedom and I can possibly retire at some point because I didn't have that at the moment. And I started looking at, well, what are the things I already know? Because I already knew a lot. We all have this over inundation of information nowadays. And I go, man, there's got to be some things I can apply. And so I started looking and go, okay, I got to do this and this and this. And in doing so, I was met with a whole lot of, ooh, this is not who I am right now. I don't do this. This is out of my character, 100%. I didn't identify with any of these things, but I went and leaned in and did them. I took unconfident action. And the more I did it, the more it was not this old Anthony doing this new thing. It became the real Anthony. And this is what Anthony did. And so I became a better father. I became a better husband, and as in relationships, so to speak. And my business picked up. I started making great money, and I started doing a whole lot of cool things. And I realized that it wasn't an issue of my info. It was an issue of how I was operating at a core identity level, beliefs, thoughts, actions I took, habits I had. And so when I started shifting those, that's when my life changed. It's a testament to you can go through a lot of crazy in life, not know who you are, and then one day go, you know what, I'm tired of trying to find myself. How about I create myself? And I created myself.
Well, I think what's really powerful is who do I want to be, right? Not what do I want to do. It's a really big difference between the way that you ask and then answer those questions. And you really you leaned into both, but you certainly leaned hard into who do I want to be and then made the behavior changes that aligned with that.
Yeah, it's behavioral, it's environmental, it's schedule. That's the crazy thing is I talk to a lot of people, and I'm a former NFL athlete, right? So the world that I operate in it's not all, thoughts and ideas. Like I'm an action guy. Here's the game plan.
Yeah, right.
Let's go.
Right, let's do.
And that's what creates the team, right? I can have an idea of what I want to do. We're going to do this, but it's not until you got into the field, you've played the plays, you've made the losses, and then you get, you eventually go, we're a great team. Well, yeah, because you put the plan into place and it worked. So for me, when I think about all the stuff I'm talking about, it's got to go down to okay, what am I doing on Tuesday morning at 9:15 a.m. and where does that lead into me becoming that person? And that's the little spot where a lot of people fall short is they'll hear the same statement. Okay, I got to be a better dad. I got to be a better husband. And they may know the things to do because again, we have the information, but then how do we get it into our day, into our life, into our rhythm? So we create what I call hustle harmony.
Love it. What's hustle harmony?
hustle harmony, it was an accidental statement that has landed really well with people. Because I think it's like, I think sometimes the gold comes flying out of your mouth accidentally because it's just there. And finally it dislodges from your heart and then it turns into something. But what I found is I like to go fast. Like I like to move, I like to create. I feel a sense of comfort in the pace of business, the pace of life. And my problem early on was that was all I cared about. I neglected the wife and the kids and all those things. And I like to be in a spot where I am hustling because I think as humans, we love to be in motion. I like making the puzzle more than I like looking at it when it's done. The puzzle's done. Now what do I do? Like, give me another puzzle, you know? So we like to be in motion, but what if that motion can be the business is making, great strides, the career, you're making great improvements and you're elevating yourself, your promotions, but also what if at the same exact time, you're an amazing parent and an amazing partner and your body's in great shape. And it all seems like, oh man, that's just, everybody makes that promise. Yeah, well, because they're trying to give you one-offs. But what if it became a plan or a process where it was who you are to do all of that?
Anthony, I just gave a TED talk on how it's not about, people love the building of the puzzle, right? It's the drive to get better, not the drive to achieve. And that's kind of what you just said, right? Like it's about making the puzzle that's fun. It's not about achieving this sort of perfect puzzle per se, right? Then you want to go build another one. So I love it. You mentioned the NFL, right? And a big part of your identity was as a football player. You played at Oregon and then you went on to play, as you said, in the NFL. How did you get to that level and overcome all of the obstacles that you talked about?
Yeah, it's the journey. It ties to the same stuff. There's parts of my life, but most people don't realize, and anybody can attach to this. As you guys listen, please, I implore you, just listen to this because this is the stuff that you can tune in and attach it to your life and not go, oh, this guy played in the NFL. He doesn't get me. No. I'm human. Like that human being played in the NFL, but there's a way I got there. So when I was in high school, my first couple of years, like youth football and in high school, I was horrible at football, like really bad. I was the worst player on the team. I didn't get to play until I was 14. So I'm like 6 years behind some of my peers. So I don't have the skill sets. I don't have the experience. I don't even have the confidence. I'm really horrible. But I spent this one off season and I asked that question of, what do I do? But it was different. It's like, well, what does a great football player do? And I asked it at 15. And that led me to, well, he lifts weights and he runs routes and he trains and eats properly. So I started doing that. And believe me, my friends and my teammates back then made fun of me. Hey, Trucks, man, you got butterfingers. Why you out there catching footballs? Man, you're weak. Why are you lifting weights? Right? And they would do that. And we had this happen in life. It's your wife going, why are you reading that book? Well, you're not going to do anything with it. It's your best friend saying, why are you posting stuff on social media? Well, that's just not you. And so what we do is we typically lean into the area of comfort and we stop doing that thing. Well, for me at 15, I go, well, I just want to be a great football player. So I'm going to keep doing what they do. And little by little, you start building up this confidence because what you create creates you. This process of creation and doing the actions, you don't just get a return of the achievement. You get a return of this is who I am to achieve this.
Sure.
It's an ownership.
Yep.
So at 15, I got that. And lo and behold, I'm a great football player. I get a college scholarship, go play football at the University of Oregon. I get to Oregon. My second year in, I was going up against a fifth-year senior. I had found my biological dad. I wanted to start when I met him. We're going to meet him my very first game. And I said, well, when I meet my dad, I don't want to be riding the pine. I want to be in the game. I want to be playing, right? Like EA Sports in the game. I want to be that guy. So,
dude, we need to get you a little voiceover deal on that. You just killed it.
I may mess around. I got a weird voice that sometimes can do cool things. But I was like, hey, I want to play. And I looked at him and I said, well, I am not the guy that starts. That's his job. But I go, okay, what does the starter do? And so I learned, well, he read the playbook and he worked at practice and he trained hard and he built camaraderie. He had his teammates trust him, like these little nuances. So I started doing what those guys do. And lo and behold, I took the fifth-year senior's job. My second year at Oregon, his fifth, I took his job. And it wasn't anything to do with him, but it was a sense of I had to step out of this box because what I'm trying to get people to grab is you're going to look at the thing you want and go immediately, yeah, but I'm not that guy. I'm not that girl. So yeah, I don't know. It's not for me probably, and maybe I shouldn't. And then we give half effort. We don't give full effort because we don't want to try this thing and feel bad for not getting it. But the reality is you're problematically comparing yourself to the outcome as opposed to comparing yourself to the efforts.
And to the process.
That's it. That's the separator. A lot of people, they do the work and they pick their head up and go, oh, I haven't got to the top of the mountain yet. And I go, oh, I took a step. That's all I want. It could have been backwards because I stumbled. It could have been sideways, but I took a step, man. And I give myself pleasure and pride, and I give myself praise for having made the step. And the more I make the step, the more eventually I pop my head up and go, holy crap, I'm at the peak of the mountain.
I'm making progress.
Yeah. So when you ask, how do I overcome? Oh, the overcoming, it wasn't a one fell swoop, I feel great. It was quite literally saying, what does that person do? It's going to feel uncomfortable, but let me take one effort step in the direction of discomfort over and over and over. And the more you do it, all of a sudden you wake up one day and you don't know when or even how, but you go, you know what, at one point I crossed the threshold. I am the person who does this.
What you are describing is the process, but you're also describing something at the core that could involve failure. It's going to be hard. It's going to involve discomfort. What do you say to people that, because sometimes people see that mountain and they look up and they go, dang, man, I don't know if I want to do all that. That's going to be hard.
Yeah.
I might not make it and I might fail. What's your feedback for somebody that's going?
Yeah. I got two things. One, it comes from a buddy of mine, Dave Hollis, and I love that he says, the price of admission to success is failure. That's it. Like you have to, because the reality is it's all learning. And we're so afraid to learn nowadays because we think that your lesson is your loss. And it's not. Like just because you learned a lesson online and people go, oh, you tried that and you failed, doesn't mean that you're lost. It just means like, ooh, I learned a way not to do it. Or, I tried and you have a little more investment. And I think so much of the life we live, even as kids, when you learn to walk, you take a stumble, you get back up. And it's like so simple, but I think it's even worse nowadays because of the sheer visual aspect of our lives. So many people we think are watching, and they're really not. I mean, and if they are and they're saying something negative, it doesn't matter if they're watching because they're not going to celebrate you, even if you do win. So it's not a matter of because of that. And the other part is we do feel like, man, I don't want to try this and it's going to be a waste of my time. And, what if I go in and nothing happens and I spend all my energy in doing this? It's interesting to me because the reality is we then are accepting less than what we know we desire. And it's the weirdest thing for me to sit back and go, I got this life. I have these abilities and I have these skills. I may not have as much as the next person. They may get there faster, but I want that thing. And surely because somebody else may have it differently or because I may not get there as fast, I'm going to give up on it and I'm going to settle. Like that's the weirdest. I don't know. For me, I do not like the thought of regret that I created. Like if I have regret, it's got to be because something I could not foresee took place. Because the weird thing is if I have regret because I didn't take an action and I know it was me, that seeps into the soul.
Mm-hmm.
It shows up in relationships. It shows up in your health. It shows up in how you operate every day. And you may not see it. You may think you're hiding it, but we all see it. The entire world sees it. And so for me, I go, look, at the end of the day, I'm going to be addicted to the day and not the destination. If I can find a way to get addicted to the efforts, to not the outcome so much, the efforts, addicted to the day, how I show up, what takes place, then what happens, I have a separation from the outcome. Now I'm going to work in the direction of the outcome, but it's like the stock market. It goes up, it goes down, it goes up, it goes down, but eventually over time, it's usually going to end more up than down.
Mm-hmm.
But so many of us say, you know what? I'm not going to make the investment. Well, if you don't make the investment, you don't get to go to the top of that stock market. Like that's just how it works. And so the investment is, can you find a way to get an addiction to the day and the highs and the lows, but enjoying the fact that you gave the effort? Because the moment you do that is the moment you've actually finally made the commitment to success.
Tell me this. I mean, a lot of guys, right, get into the NFL and they think they're going to be there for a long time. But that's not the reality for most guys, right? We know that.
No.
What happened when your NFL dreams got cut short, right?
Well, the NFL stands for not for long is like a funny thing people say. The average person is there for like 3 to 6 months. People say 3 years, but if you take into account every person that comes into training camp, they start with like some 80 people cut to 53. So the average is, half the team is cut off. You're looking at, close to like 3 to 6 months. So you're not going to be there long. And the reality is for a lot of us, it's just this thing where we identify that so heavily. And my career got ended to an injury. Like I was playing against the Philadelphia Eagles as a Pittsburgh Steeler. In fact, my team went on that year to win a Super Bowl, and I was at home collecting a check and just like didn't get to be part of it. Kind of sucked, but that's what it is. And the hard part is it's who you are. When you have spent 13 years of your life doing one thing and identifying as one thing, and that one thing you can't do anymore, it leaves a massive hole. Now, while for me it's football, it could be someone who has a parent that passes away. It could be, someone that has a career that they have to leave. It could be someone that has a business that they want to start and they leave a career. Anytime you wake up and by choice or by chance you're doing something new, you will feel that space of, oh, this is different. I don't know if I'm ready. How can I do it? It's a natural gaping hole. And it's exacerbated, I think personally, when it's like professional sports or the military, because there's not just this mental thing, it's a physical thing. It's how I look, it's how I express myself. But for me, I couldn't run around and hit people anymore. I couldn't do the thing. And it's like, oh, well, then now I'm being pushed into this world that I don't know very well. I'm 8 years behind my peers who've been in jobs and careers since some high school, So you have this culmination of a lot of things. On top of that's compounding an ego, which is this thing where like, oh, I played in the NFL, so I'm better than you. And it's like, no, you're not. You suck, Ant. Like, what are you talking about? You've never been here before. But those areas, it becomes a really diabolical cycle. It's why 73+% of football players go bankrupt within 3 years of leaving the NFL.
Well, I tell you what, it breaks my heart, right? As a sports agent for almost 20 years, I saw that identity lost for so many guys and gals when they stopped doing that thing that they'd always dreamed of doing and were known for, right? And when you've got your jersey on your back, right, everybody takes your call. You're making money that you think's going to last forever, and it doesn't. And when it all ends, it is, to put it mildly, very hard for the athletes. And I think it's incredibly important to recognize that and try to stay beside those guys and gals as they step away from the sport, because it's a massive, to your book and to your brand, identity shift.
Yeah, it's a huge piece of it.
Hi there, it's Molly, and I've got some exciting news to share with you. In just a few weeks, I'll be launching my first ever on-demand course that's crafted to help you up your game and unlock the drive to fuel next level success. Go to mollyfletcher.com/waitlist to join the waitlist, and you'll be the first to know when my new course launches and get an exclusive discount. Again, that's mollyfletcher.com/waitlist. Are you ready to up your game? Sign up today. What was your rock bottom, Anthony?
Oh, you want to go there? Look at you trying to dig up.
I want to go there, man. Let's go. Let's keep it real. You're a keep it real kind of guy.
That I am. I at this point in my life, there's nothing that is off limits. My wife is not always a fan of it, but that's just the way it goes. She gets it though. I think the one thing that I learned at this point in my life, actually the rock bottom, which I'll share, was that enough people in the world have experienced what you've experienced. By enough, I mean millions, if not more, And the problem is we all think we're solo and alone, and because no one talks about it, everybody keeps recycling the same problem, same pain. And so I figured, well, for me, I got what I need in life. I remarried my ex-wife after 3 years divorce of an amazing marriage, an amazing family. I have my health. I have those who are in my circle. So if I say something and the rest of the world may not appreciate it, right? I'm not talking about being canceled. I'm saying something where they go, this guy just shared that. What a weirdo. I go, cool. Then it's not for you. But somebody else sent me a message and said, thank you. It saved my life. So I share these things openly. So for me, I got to the point where former NFL athlete, I found out my wife, had stepped out and she had an affair, which broke my soul. Having been a foster kid and not having my family like that broke me. The gym business I had was tanking. Like I was on the verge of bankruptcy at the moment. I at that time, I thankfully, didn't get to that point, but I was really, really close. I wasn't a present father. I was out of shape. So even looking in the mirror, I didn't like myself. And essentially the way I explain it is everything that made me was gone. So I go, well, why am I even doing this? Like what, if this is life after the game, I don't want a part of it. And I remember it, like whenever we go through these things that just compound on top of you, we find ways to try to pretty much distract ourselves from it. But we walk through this fog. It's there, but I don't want to think about it. So I pushed it aside, but I just keep doing my thing and nothing gets better. And so what ends up happening, and what had happened for me was I was trying to not think about any of it. And I went to this UFC fight. It was Saturday night. I started at like 8 o'clock, 7 or 8 o'clock. And I remember watching the whole thing. And I sat around after, and I just remember sitting in a chair. And I was told by my friends that I didn't move for like the entire fight. I didn't talk to anybody. I was just there. And I was like in this trance. And then I got up when I got over, and I didn't think I said bye to anybody. I got up and walked out. My best friend Jason was walking out, and he says these simple words. And he says, Anthony, this is your reality. 4 words. And in the 4 words, it was that like snapping back to reality. And if you picture a movie where the person snaps back and all the thoughts come rushing in kind of thing, like that was the feeling. And every piece of pain came slamming on my heart. And I found later on, just years later, that the brain doesn't do well at deciphering between emotional and physical pain sometimes. And that's why emotional pain can actually physically hurt you. It's just like an all over hurt. And I remember feeling that. I started crying. I couldn't stop crying. It was just this visceral. And I remember like getting my phone out and then texting my friends and family and saying, please tell my kids who their father was. And I drove off. And for me, the purpose was like, I'm going to go find some rat poison and I'm going to go, ingest it, sit in my car somewhere, and then just this all end. I just need the pain to stop. But I couldn't figure out how to stop it. And no stores were open. I'd drive by and they were all closed, thankfully, and I ended up stopping in a parking lot in Stockton, California, at a gas station, just sitting there. And I think in the time sitting there, just, when time, they say time heals, time does. It was those moments. It was a couple hours just sitting there in the pain and the crying, and it just subsided little by little. And eventually GPS had found my phone and the police had come up and obviously I can speak. So I just kind of did my like, oh, I'm fine. I don't know what's going on. They're like, oh, well, your family, they said something's going on. I'm like, no, they're just crazy. My ex-wife and I are fighting. And they're like, well, just head home. So I head home and I pulled to my house like an hour away, by the way. I had pulled to my house and it's like 30 people outside of my house, that friends, family, colleagues, clients from my gym. And it was just another wave of overwhelming shame, like all in front of my house. And like, oh, so now you have it's just not getting any better, we'll call it. And I remember just like, I just bypassed. I didn't want to talk to anybody. And I kind of I got there and I just let it all go. I didn't talk to anybody. I walked away. And so I remember that was the rock bottom, man. It was a moment of like, this is horrible. I remember just feeling so lonely in my own home, feeling separate, feeling unclear, feeling very weak. I think it's the one thing, feeling very weak. But the thing that nobody understood or even acknowledges until I tell them is the biggest reason why I got here, which a lot of men battle. Women battle as well, but there's a lot of men. So I think the suicide rate for us is so high, is I didn't want to let anybody know. So a couple of days later, there's no playbook on how to go back to your life when you want to take your life. There isn't. It's just find a way to. So I just threw myself back into work. And I was go back to work Monday like nothing happened. And everybody around, they were aware, but they didn't talk about it except for one guy. Richie pulls into the back of the office and he goes, hey, first off, don't ever do that again. He used a little harsher words. Yeah. Secondly, he goes, whenever I heard what was going on, I threw up. Like, what are you talking about, man? He goes, well, I thought I lost a hero. For me to hear it from a friend is very odd. It's like, what do you mean a hero? And he goes, well, at the end of the day, everybody in this town knows what you've gone through. Like we've all watched you grow and climb and succeed. Like you inspire a lot of people, man. Even this gym, this job you've given me, like you inspire a lot of people, man. Like you may not know it, but by accident, you're helping people's lives. And while it was not the time for me to try to help anybody, I think I, for the first time, had this thought of like, oh, like maybe all this craziness and this pain and the childhood stuff and the trauma from college and stuff and my marriage and all these things going on, maybe there's a reason for all of it to take place. And it was a seed. Wasn't anything I was going to do anything with, but it was just a seed. But that was my bottoms, like the bottom. I can't imagine lower than that. Whenever someone's at those places, if somebody's listening and they're like, man, I feel that sometimes, the most important thing you can do is let people in. That was the one thing, if I can go back and do it again, live life in that bubble, I would have told way more people, because that conversation with him led to more conversation with other people, which led to years later me telling you this, right? That was the catalyst way back then. And so when things are going crazy, I have conversations, because here's the one thing is a lot of us feel that we're going to be a burden to those who are in good moods with our bad mood. And it's like, no. Think about whenever a friend reaches out and they're like, hey, can you help me? We actually get a bump of joy. We go, man, it's cool that my friend loves me enough for me to be, let's talk. I would love to help you out, right?
Mm-hmm.
People want to do that for you.
What was it? I have to ask, right? So you're walking out of the fight and your buddy looks at you and says, "This is your reality." What did that mean to you in that moment?
You know what? I think what he was meaning, which I grabbed the meaning, is the avoidance. We do a good job of avoidance. And I had gone through the days and I'd been living my life in pure avoidance of what's going on. I didn't want to accept that this was going on in my marriage. I didn't want to accept this was how the business was going. I didn't want to accept that. Like, I felt that none of it. I want to just focus on whatever is going to make me feel good right now. And I think it's why a lot of people go to drugs and alcohol and multiple partners. It's just, you try to fill that hole with the wrong stuff. And so when he said that, it was kind of me being forced to turn and look at it all.
Mm.
And that was the main piece. It was like, like, I know you're trying to avoid it. He didn't say it in the same kind of words, but it was like, this is your reality, man. Like, face it. Because I hadn't been facing it. I hadn't talked to anybody. And that was why it hurt, because I now was being forced to view and now address all the things I've been trying to avoid and had let fester.
I like how you talk about this, right? You say the secret to a new, better life isn't a shift in mindset, but a shift in identity. I'm a big mindset fan, right? So this is an interesting one to me. Can you unpack this for me a little bit?
Mindset's interesting. Let's start off with just a real basic understand. There are very few people who have had massive success that if you ask them how they have success, that they would specifically at the beginning say, because of my mindset. They would say because of my habits, how I show up, I don't give up. Like, they would describe things that they do, and we on the other side go, oh, let's put it into a box and call it mindset. And so for me, I realized that we're pretty much using mindset as this aspect of, it's how we operate, but it's us in the viewing of something outside of our current state, because we do have a great mindset, but we just don't understand why it's limited. And it's a couple things. One, I think that a lot of the mindset tools and techniques are ways that we can consciously or logically think about something, prepare for something, dial something in. But then I go to my sports days, and I talk to boxers about this too. And I find that there's a moment in time when you get to this edge, past all the levels of logic and experience and everything that you can logically think to do, and you settle into almost instinct. It's an instinctual thing. It's like if I'm in the ring and I'm a boxer, the moment I get to that 11th round and I'm dead tired, if I say, you know what, I've been trying boxing for a while, I'm going to be okay taking the knee, taking an L, getting knocked out. But if I'm a boxer to my core, instinctually, something else kicks in to where I don't care what happens. I am not going to lose this fight. Mm-hmm. I'm not even consciously thinking about it. It's the track athletes where they're like, no, I am a championship, 100-meter dash runner. You are not going to beat me. They don't even, it is not in the middle of it. There's not this conscious, you're not going to beat me because I've worked too hard. No, it's just this guttural, instinctual, I have to win. And it comes out of this bottom place. And I found that that's the identity. The identity is the part of you that kicks in when the mindset, finds its limitations, finds its edge. Because all of us at some point in time, like I played professional football. I was a linebacker. I had a lot of phenomenal mindset techniques and tactics, but life kicked my butt. And instinctually, at the gut of me, I didn't have what it took at those moments to say, no, I'm a guy that belongs here. I had to build the identity back up, right? So when I look at mindset, it has a place. In fact, it is part of an ideal identity, like the identity you need to have in place to accomplish your goals. It's part of it. But identity encompasses all of it. It's who you are to have a great mindset. It's who you are to have a great belief system. It's who you are to have dialed in thoughts or have great actions. It's who you are, and mindset's a piece of that. But all of it combined creates this sense of identity where, as humans, there's this almost basal thing where if I have worked for something, I want what I deserve. It's a core thing for us. It's like we will fight tooth and nail for what we believe we deserve. If I believe I deserve this relationship or that job, I'll fight for it. But if I don't believe I deserve it, I won't. And in fact, if I believe I deserve less, some people will fight to stay low. They'll give up situations and opportunities. They'll self-sabotage. Like there are people I know that have made great money, didn't feel like they deserved it, and they just splurge and spend money everywhere, and they squander it. And I found that what happens, I can sit with people and talk about mindset all day, and believe me, it does have a place. But it has a place in the stance of getting you to take the actions to where over time, you identify as something beyond that.
I really appreciate, candidly, the way you delineate that, the way you speak to that. It's powerful. And your book is called Identity Shift. How fixed is our identity, right, Anthony? Like, how fixed is it, and how much of it can be changed?
Well, I think we're always moving. So it's kind of like this. Let's think about the airplane concept, right? If I adjust the trajectory of an airplane by 1 degree, it'll exponentially go in a different area. If you ever take a snapshot of where I was and where I am now, you'll say I've changed. But in the essence of me, I'm always moving. So I'm always in flight. And what's beautiful about that is that you've never landed. Until you close the door in your life, you've never landed somewhere. You're not stuck. You're not stopped. So it's always malleable. It's just a matter of saying, what am I willing to adjust and shift to be able to go in a different trajectory towards a different destination? And what's beautiful about the concept of identity, it's who you are now, but not who you'll be a year from now, 3 years from now, 2 years, right? And the idea is based on the fact that, well, you are what you consistently do. You've all heard that before, and it's true, right? If I consistently show love to my wife, I am a good husband. If I consistently work out, I am a person that's in shape or is, focused on fitness. That's who I am right now. If I stop doing it, I stop becoming that person. And so the idea is you're always malleable. There is no fixation. Now, there are parts of you that will stay the entire flight, right? There's going to be parts of you that come from childhood, that come from belief systems that's going to be part of the flight, but you can change who's in the airplane. You can change the tires. You can change the engines. Like, you can adjust it and do it all in midair, which is cool for life. So it's always something that can be adjusted and shifted and changed. And it's all based on what you choose to start doing and doing consistently.
So if we aren't in crisis mode, right, how do we know when we need to make a shift?
Oh, we know. That's a good question. Phenomenal question, because a lot of people go, well, how do I know for sure? Well, ask yourself, has the words ever come out of your mouth of like, man, life is amazing right now? And if it hasn't, then we have time to make a shift, and it might be time to do so. Like, I would tell my wife 2 weeks ago, I'm like, my life is creepy good right now. Like, my marriage is sound. I'm in good shape. The kids are happy and healthy. Business is running smooth. I'm like, it's been good for years now. But then there are moments in time when I've been like, you know what? The business isn't going at the level it needs to. Maybe I need to shift the way that I'm guiding my team. Maybe the relationship I have a little bit more arduous. Maybe I need to shift how I'm spending time with my wife. Right? Any area where you might notice, and we actually have a system we do, and we kind of unpack this in 10 areas. But the cool thing is you don't have to overhaul everything. Sometimes making these little shifts, they adjust everything else. Making one adjustment could tweak and fix everything that you don't even notice it's affecting. But if you have some area of your life where it's subpar or suboptimal and it's drawing energy from you, well, it's taking energy from where you can show up in other places with the energy. So your life is actually falling short of full potential. But honestly, any area where you're like, this could be better, time to make a shift.
Well, and your plane analogy, right? It's so true. I think that, if you have a plane that takes off from LaGuardia to LA and it's 2 degrees, more north, I think it might end up in Seattle, right? And it's 2 degrees. To your point, I mean, we can make a slight shift and create big changes.
Everything
right?
changes.
Yeah.
And that's the cool thing. We always had the power to do so.
What would you tell the younger Anthony? Right? What would you tell the younger self reflecting on everything that you've been through?
Man, I think there are a lot of times that I was apprehensive to push. Like I wanted to push, but I didn't go to a certain level. I think I would tell the young Anthony, like, you can't break it. You can't break life. You can do crimes and do stuff, but if you do things that chase a dream, you're never going to fully break it. You just find out how not to do it sometimes. And so I would tell young Ant, like, Ant, break some things, man. Go full speed. Figure it out. Like, you're not going to actually ruin it. You're going to find out more than most people, because the majority of humans don't push. They don't get those lessons. Therefore, they can't apply them to succeed. The more you can push, the more you can learn, the more you can apply, the more you'll succeed.
All right. So, Anthony, I'm going to hit you with some rapid fires. You just tell me what comes up. Sound good?
Let's do it.
Favorite book?
Favorite book is Identity Shifts. Upgrade
go.
how you operate to elevate your life.
Let's
go.
No,
besides that, I love with Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Sure. Morning or evening routine?
Morning routine.
What's your morning routine?
I get up in the morning. I ride a bike for about 30 minutes. The bike, I then usually read while on the bike. When I get off the bike, I'll do little affirmations and do some visualization. I eat my breakfast. I get my kids up. We get to go. And then I get to work about 8 o'clock.
What's a habit that changed your life?
Ownership. When I could step in and go, this was my fault somehow, I found ways to solve problems I thought were unsolvable.
What are you reading, watching, or listening to right now? Anything like that coming up for you that you're loving?
I'm actually about to watch They're Trying to Kill Us. I'm not sure why, but someone told me it's a good one to pay attention to. Outside of that, the last month, I haven't really consumed much. I was actually given a book called The Sacred Pace that I've kind of picked up but haven't got deep into it yet.
Got it. Love it. The Sacred Pace?
Pace. Yeah, I talk about the pace of life a lot. And
sure.
It's more of like a religious kind of book tied into like the pace we live our life.
So, Anthony, the show's called Game Changer. So one last question. What game changer or who inspires you and why?
Man, future Anthony. I always think about when I show up in the future to meet this guy, will he approve? Will he be a fan? Will he give me a high five? Or will he look at me with his head up and go, man, you could have done some more, right? So future Anthony's a drive for me.
Wow. Cool. I've never had that one before. I love it. Well, Anthony Trucks, thank you, man. This was good stuff. And man, congrats on what you have done in your life and the people that you serve, the people that you inspire. It's incredible, man. Congrats.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
Here are a few of my favorite takeaways from our conversation. Number one, it is not just a mindset shift, it's an identity shift. It takes more than just mindset shift to live a better life. It takes an identity shift. Start by identifying who you really want to be, and then what you do becomes clear. Number two, be addicted to the day, not the destination. I love this one. This is something I saw every day working with athletes. They love the day-to-day grind. They love the effort. They know the view from the top is great, but it's the climb that makes it all worthwhile. Number three, find your hustle harmony. Find your hustle harmony. Instead of trying to achieve balance, which often feels so unattainable, find your hustle harmony. That place where you live with all your goals and commitments working in harmony every day. Thanks, as always, for listening to Game Changers with Molly Fletcher. If you like the show, be sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts. There you can listen to previous episodes and leave us a review, which helps other people find out about the show. This episode was edited and sound designed by the team at Sound On Studios. You can find out more about their work at soundonsoundoff.com. Check it out. For more about me, visit mollyfletcher.com. Until next time, stay curious and be bold.